things. I started changing the way that I ate, nutrition, exercising. Just started making all these changes, but I started also at the same time getting deeper and deeper into meditation. And so about a year of working with her, I was finally back on track. But I wanted to do more meditation. And so the meditation, the desire to do more meditation led me to like Buddhist meditation programs. And that was easy for me to get to because I was living with a lot of people and knew a lot of people who were practicing Buddhism. So when I started doing Buddhist meditation, I realized that Buddhism was something that aligned with my beliefs about the world. And so early on in my interest in Buddhism, I realized I wanted to be a teacher. And so in the tradition that I chose was Tibetan Buddhism. And in Tibetan Buddhism, to become a teacher, we have to go off and do over a 3-year. So we have to do a 3-year retreat, but it's about 3 years and 4 or 5 months in all. So I spent over 3 years in silent meditation retreats in a small cohort. It was about 4 of us practicing and studying together, but we were mostly in silence. I started that at the beginning of 2008 and finished that 2011. And then came out and was, authorized as a Buddhist teacher. In my tradition, we're called lamas, and a lama means teacher. So after that, I moved to D.C. That was in New York. So in New York State, I, was living in a monastery. I moved to D.C. 2012 and ran a meditation center there. And then I was able, after about 2.5 years, to come back to Boston to complete my Master of Divinity degree at Harvard.
Now, one of the things one of the things I've noticed just in society in general, and I just want to know what your thoughts on this were, was you talked about having to do this kind of inner introspection through the Buddhist teachings and things of that nature. And it seems like society in general is doing more and more of this. I know that I have some of my parts of my ancestry include some roots in the Native American stuff. And, of course, that's all about people doing the sweatshops and inner kind of things of that nature. But it does seem like whether it's forms of yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's whatever, that with the way society is now and with a lot of the turmoil that's going on in society, more and more people are trying to find a way to balance their life and using meditation as part of that. Is that what you're finding just as like a national trend? Because it does seem to me that more and more people are doing that. And I'm also seeing more cross-dialogue among the faith. I know that was one of the things that you had going on when you were in town with people. For a long time, people would just kind of bottle people in one faith or another, and there was a lot of either not talking to each other or trying to put one faith above another. But there does seem to be, while there are some churches that still do that, there does seem to be a lot more people that are trying to connect the dots with each other.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that, and I see it not only in this country, but I see it in other countries that I work and teach in. This is just a time where it's very unstable, it feels very much out of control, and people are asking bigger questions. They're asking these questions about, their mind, and their mental health, and you have to look inward to look at that. A lot of people are really, for instance, angry, enraged, and the only way to deal with anger and rage is to look very deep into our own experiences and to figure out where that's coming from. So it's a natural trend. We have mindfulness meditation, which is making its way into every industry, every field, every environment. It's in businesses. Mindfulness is in schools, hospitals, community groups, churches, everywhere. So I think mindfulness is something really important because it just gives us a way to create this awareness about ourselves. And that's all we're trying to do, I think, in the study of Buddhism and the practice of Buddhism, is we're trying to figure out, who and what we are. And I think that you can take meditation and you can use it to support whatever spiritual path that you're following as well. So I think this is an important period right now, but it's also, we have to be doing much more as well. Like once you use meditation to look deeply into ourselves, you have to develop a kind of motivation to actually do something in the world to change it. And that's
right.
where my teaching comes from. I teach kind of the socially engaged Buddhism called radical Dharma. And Dharma means teaching. It also means wisdom. So when I say radical Dharma, I mean, how do we use our wisdom? How do we use our practice to really move into the world and to address the things that are really creating harm for ourselves and other people around us? And to do it from a place of love.
Yeah, because I know one of the things that Radical Dharma has been doing and that you definitely have been a proponent of is that, there's these conversations around LGBT rights as well as around rights around minorities, and we definitely have had that going on with the folks that are struggling with what's going on with the Latin community and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I do know that in some of your teachings, you deal with issues like that. Y'all are not afraid to take on these issues and also take them on forthrightly.
Yep. Yeah, we have to. There's no choice because, one of the things that I celebrated kind of transitioning and converting to Buddhism was really opening my mind to all these different ways that people are living their lives, And my basic ethic right now is that I don't care what you do, I don't care how you do it, as long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, then I'm cool with it, And that's the ethic that I bring into my teaching and how I relate to other spiritual paths and religions, And I think it's important for spiritual leaders, clergy, and so forth to have a message of inclusivity, And even particularly from my stance, within my tradition, I do not believe that, that one sexuality and gender identification is sinful at all. There's nothing wrong with that. I do believe that I think there's something wrong with a society that can't recognize that there are people who are really trying to live their fullest truth in a way that's loving and nonviolent.
Right. Definitely. I was expecting a couple more calls, but I want to bring in G. I don't want you to go anywhere, Lama Rod, because I definitely want you to stay engaged in the conversation. But I want to bring in G, and I think there may be another bell as well. So that may be Nicole. But if we can get G into the conversation, I'd like to bring him in, Dean.
You are exactly correct. We'll bring G in 1 second.
This is Nikki Hall, founder of Simply Radiant LLC, a woman with great passion and skill to make you look and feel better. Meet me where you are. Let's take it to another level, a new you. See you soon. Call 919-971-6243. Make your place today.
Okay, we are now. G is on the line. Welcome to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, sir. You are now on the line.
Hey,
how
how's
you
it
doing,
going,
G? Doing good.
How you doing?
G, I'm doing good. Now, I've got a question for you, D, because we've had Lama Rod on the line and everything, and of course we were talking to him earlier and everything. And I know that your background is of Asian background. I've never even asked you what your faith is, so I don't know if you were raised in that Buddhist culture or if you were raised in another kind of culture, and also how that shaped your poetry, because I do know that you definitely tackle the issues of being an Asian and in the spoken word community, even in some of your lyrics and everything. So I was just wondering how that kind of shaped you and whether that faith had anything to do with your own thing. Because I know one thing you talk about is the strictness of your dad. I do remember that's in one of your poems, I believe, that you talked about how strict your dad was and everything and kind of the way he was raised. Because I think he's first generation here, so that, like, he came here in after the war and everything.
Yeah, he's first generation, and I grew up practicing Nichiren Buddhism right there in North Carolina, and I'm actually, I think, third generation practitioners in our family.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get involved? I mean, not many people would think of like an Asian young man getting involved in the hip hop world. So tell us how you got involved in the hip hop world and also the spoken word world. Because I remember first meeting you as I put on our page and as I talked to Dean about when you were like a teenager, and I'm over there seeking you drinks because you were actually not legal, but you were looking so pitiful that I figured you needed a drink.
Yeah, man. I just loved. I just loved rapping just because that's what kids were doing, and everyone just loved hip hop, and we loved freestyling. And it was just I was part of my environment kind of thing, and I think I found a love of writing early on when my friend passed away when I was younger, about 13 years old. And that was the first time I really started writing rhymes, like as a tool, just to really express myself. And then later down the road, I walked in. I stumbled into the Hayti Center when I was 14, and found that there was a small poetry community. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. I just kept going back, and just kept with it.
Yeah, and you're definitely still going back to the Hayti. Matter of fact, I think your latest efforts that you've got in terms of your latest album, in terms of hip-hop album, you've actually did some recording at Hayti. You and Tune, a matter of a couple of weeks ago and everything. That's where we actually saw each other the last time that you were in there doing some recordings and things of that nature. So, but a lot of what you write about is this kind of like sharing your background and kind of incorporating that into your poetry. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you incorporate that, because, like I said, there's not that many. When I see the competitions going on, I don't know how many are nationally, because I know you were part of a competition that was a national competition of a lot of different Asian folks that were in the hip-hop world. Began with a K. I cannot think of the name of it, but I know that you had to try to lobby people into getting you votes and things of that nature. But I don't know, is this something that is reaching out into the Asian community, and how is it doing in the local Asian community, or is it something that's not as big in that community?
It's just hard in general, man. The Asian American arts community and scene is really small and really tight knit. And as much as we try our best to celebrate each other, it's also important for us to just be out in our craft, in the world of our craft, just representing ourselves as authentically as possible. And I think, man, like, it took poetry for me to even recognize that, like, being different, was important and that it was powerful. And once I kind of realized that, it allowed me and encouraged me to keep exploring my identity and exploring my heritage, and why it's important to me and hopefully to other people. And I think in hip hop it fits well because and in spoken word too, of course, because it sort of encourages and enforces us to really get to the human element of our experiences in our life. And in hip hop, it's always been about originality. It's always been about this authenticity and how true are you being to yourself, and how do you translate that to the culture as a whole. And so luckily, I feel like I'm from a small town that's loving and compassionate and tight-knit and very family-oriented. So it kind of was a great breeding ground for me ever since I was younger.
Right, because you said you stumbled into Hayti, which is, you meant you stumbled into Durham, but your original home, if I remember correctly, is out of the Chapel Hill area, because you're one of the founders, if I remember correctly, of the Sacrificial Poets, which is the youth poetry group there.
Yeah, well, I was Durham school my whole life, except for like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I was in Chatham County, in Pittsburgh. And when I started going to Giffins when I was like 8th grade, and so ever since then I was Jordan and Durham Tech, and I was sort of the Durham representative of the Chapel Hill youth poetry movement at the time.
Yeah, and that definitely was a very powerful youth poetry movement. It was happening at that time, and it's still, to some degree, continuing and things of that nature. How do you think we're doing in terms of supporting our artists, just in general? Do you feel that you get enough love, both here as well as nationally and internationally? Because, like I said, Durham is home for you, but you also have spent some time in L.A. and have traveled around the world. So how do you think we're doing in terms of supporting our artists, and particularly our spoken word and hip-hop artists?
It's hard for me to, like, analyze that question, because I'm not sure how much it's anyone's responsibility but the artist to to do their life work.